Uh, Everyone should have an agenda in front of them, and without any further ado, because our county manager, Mr. Norio, decided after asking her and talking with her and meeting with her about the census that she would host this training for us today, and she's going to come and give us our welcome. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you for the breakfast.
Good morning, everybody. As Laura said, I'm Dina Diorio. I'm the Mecklenburg County Manager. I just wanted to take an opportunity to welcome you to our Government Center. We're really happy that we had the opportunity to host you today. Please eat all of that before you leave. That's the only thing I ask of you, is to eat all of that before you leave. But anyway, we're really excited to get this process started, and we're really thankful to Laura and her team for coming to us so that she can train us here as opposed to us having to go someplace else. So we're very much looking forward to it, and with that, I will turn it back over to Laura. The other thing I will tell you is that Laura asked that our training be videotaped, so I just want you to be aware that we are being videotaped.
When you live in the county and you ask your county manager and they respond, you know you have to work for them really hard out in the community, because they have provided us with everything that we asked for. We didn't even ask for the food. We don't usually ask for that, but we are very appreciative that she's provided us with the food as well as the space, and doing the video for us. This will be our first video that we will have available for headquarters for the training for the Complete Count Committee. At this time, I'd just like to introduce the other staff members here, that my colleagues that work with me for the decennial. And I ask you all to stand and introduce yourself, Kelly and Juanita, and tell them what your role is with the Department of Commerce.
Good morning. My name is Juanita Mainster. I'm a partnerships specialist also. I am based in Florida, but I will be in North Carolina covering the Hispanic Latino population as well as the tribal population. And I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Kelly, would you come on?
Okay, thanks. Hello, good morning. My name is Kelly Karras, and I am a data dissemination specialist, and I'm located here in Charlotte, just like Laura, and I cover North and South Carolina. And so it's my job to educate the public on census data. So if you have any census data related questions, or you're interested in training, it's free of charge. I'll be happy to provide that, and I brought some business cards. I apologize, I won't be here all day. So if you're interested, just come up and talk to me. I'm sure we'll have a break at some point. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. We're also expecting David Klein, who is our geographer for the census, and all of us work out of the regional office, which is located in Atlanta, Georgia. Mr. George Grandy is our regional director. So we all, well, with the exception of Juanita lives in Florida, David and I and Kelly live in Charlotte, but we cover the entire state and our respected areas that we're working in. At this time, I'd just like to go around the room, starting with this table. If you can stand and give us your name and your title and what county and city you're representing here today.
My name is Ben Steichleather. I'm the Strategic Planning and Communications Manager for Iredell County.
Andrew Ventresca. I'm a senior planner with the City of Statesville, which is in Iredell County.
My name is Juan Garcia. I work for the Gaston County Planning and Development Services.
Good morning. My name is Willie King Jr., and I'm the Gaston County Zoning Administrator. Thank you.
My name's Shayna Robertson. I'm Administrative Assistant and Deputy Town Clerk for the Town of Matthews.
Good morning. I'm Jan Whitesell. I'm the Decision Analytics and Research Manager for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Department.
Hi, I'm Jamie Mendoza, and I'm with the City of Belmont Planning Department. I'm their planning tech, and we're with Gaston County.
Alec Robinson, City of Belmont, Gaston County, Senior Planner.
Good morning again. I'm Dina Diorio, the Mecklenburg County Manager.
My name is Tracy, and I'm intern for Charlotte Mecklenburg County.
It's her first day.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Julio Paredes. I'm a planner for Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln, and Pio.
Good morning. I'm Derek Ramos, Assistant County Manager for Mecklenburg County.
Andrew Bryant, Director of Planning and Inspections for Lincoln County.
Good morning. I'm Catherine Sane. I'm the Director of Lincoln County Senior Services in Lincolnton, North Carolina.
Good morning. My name is Joshua Grant. I'm Assistant to the County Manager in Lincoln County, North Carolina.
My name is Alana Sweat, and I am the GIS Specialist for the City of Kannapolis in Cabarrus and Rowan counties.
Good morning. I'm Kasha Thompson, Communications Manager for Cabarrus County.
Thank you all so very much for being here this morning. We were trying to reach out to all of the counties in your card group. And we're missing a couple, and hopefully they will come in sometimes during the training. Our presentation today is centered around the Complete Count Committee. And as we go into this presentation, there may be a couple of slides that are different because we've been doing this training for the last couple of months. So there have been some changes made. But you can go along with me with the slide presentation that is included in the packet. I hope everyone got an opportunity to pick up the packet that we have over on the table. And make sure you sign in before you leave. Of course, every 10 years, this is required that we do a count or take a snapshot of the number of people that actually live in the United States. And the purpose is to update and prepare everyone for the 2020 census, especially how local governments and groups can get involved in improving the accuracy of the results. Of course, the government, it's a mandate that we do a head count. It's required every 10 years by the Constitution. Article 1, Section 2 states that the representation and direct taxes shall be apportionate among the several states which may be included within the Union, according to their respective numbers. The decennial census steadily expanded throughout the 19th century, and by the turn of the century, the demographics, the agricultural, the economic segment, and the decennial census collected information on hundreds of topics for the 2010 census. It was simplified back to a basic head count with 10 questions. The other demographics topics had been removed and are now collected in a monthly survey called the American Community Survey. The 2010 form can be found under www.census.gov. And as you look at that, it would not be that much of a difference for the 2020 census as the way we presented it for the 2010. Why we ask you to allocate resources to the 2020 census, that's one of the questions, that's one of our asks when we present to our county managers, is we ask for funds. We are meeting with governors, local governments, and community organizations to ask leaders to allocate resources like time and funding because the data has an economic and political impact. The decennial census is the product most people are familiar with and was last completed in 2010. The reason why we do a decennial are, number one, census data is used in a congressional apportionment every decade. The numbers are used to determine how many congressmen and congresswomen are allocated to each state. I'm sure many of you have read the stories or heard about certain states losing or gaining congressional seats. The decennial census numbers determine that. And I just want to share a little quick story with you. One of our partnership specialists that is in South Carolina, we had a national meeting, and she was actually kidding one of the other partnership specialists at Chicago, because South Carolina did win a seat after the 2010 census, and Chicago lost that seat. So they were debating whether or not they will be getting their seat back in Chicago. So, but the partnership specialist, who did play an intricate role in making sure their numbers were increased in 2010, is daring them to even try to take that seat back. So that's something that's very serious with the decennial. Secondly, the decennial figures are used to state and local officials in the redistricting. Now, most of you perhaps know that, but we need to educate our community about that fact as well. The drawing of the voting districts and congressional districts are heavily dictated by the census data. And thirdly, the data is used to allocate billions of dollars in federal funds to the state and local government through federal programs and grants. A lot of people don't know that. These are the three facts that we need to educate our community on. So we are appealing to you to gather those individuals that are the trusted voices in your community to talk to the people and educate them about these three facts. And you'll hear a lot about those main reasons as to why we need to make sure that people are counted. As a result of the population count in 2010, the two of the states, Georgia and South Carolina, gained 1 congressional seat. Florida gained 2 congressional seats. Alabama and Mississippi stayed the same, while Louisiana lost 1 seat. And just as information, we are highlighting those particular states because they are in our region. We have 7 states that are in the out of the Atlantis region. Census data are used in many ways. We do have a sheet on the sign-in table over here that lists 50 ways in which the census data is used. Census data is used, and some of the ways are included on the slide through forecasting of future transportation, determining area eligibility for housing assistance and rehabilitation loans, assisting tribal, federal, and state and local government in planning and implementing programs and services. But there is a host of other areas that we focus on in using that census data. So feel free to get that list over there. And that is also a part of what needs to be disseminated throughout our community, so people don't think that we just do a count every 10 years. Right now, there are not too many people that are trusting the government. So, privacy and confidentiality is important, and we need to share with that throughout our community the importance of the privacy and confidentiality. Under the Title 13 of the U.S. Code, all Census Bureau employees are sworn in for lifetime oath to protect the data. It is a felony for the Census Bureau employee to disclose any confidential census information during or after employment, and the penalty for wrongful disclosure is up to 5 years imprisonment and a fine of $250,000. So we want to make sure that, in simple terms, this means no immigration, not law enforcement agencies like FBI, not even the police or the president or any other of the government can be provided with any of this information. All of you perhaps know that it is only revealed after 72 years. It's important to note that the Census Bureau never asked for a full Social Security number. They never ask for money or a donation. They never send requests on behalf of a political party, or never request a PIN code, passwords, or similar access to the information that you have provided them with. No banks or other financial accounts information is requested. This is very important, and we'd like for you to start sharing this as soon as possible. There are a couple of new initiatives being implemented for the 2020 census. One, we are optimizing self-response, allowing people to respond anytime, anywhere, by way of phone or internet. And we are saying this is self-response because it is, but we want people to understand and be educated about the fact that they can fill out the information on their phone, from their phone. The process will be, they will be receiving a card in the mail that would have a barcode on it, and they can go into their phone, put that barcode in, and start filling out that information. They can go in on their tablets, they can go in on their personal computers, they can go in on any type of device that they'll be able to provide it with a browser that they can go in and fill out this information. This card will be sent to them 4 times for them to go in and start this process. If they don't do it then there are other steps that we'll have to take. But that is one of our main things that has drastically changed what we have been doing in the past. So we need to educate people about the fact that they need to go in and fill this information out. And this is self-response. So they need to understand that whatever they put on that form, however they fill it out, it's left up to them. If it's 10 people in their house and they only want to put 5 in there, that's left up to that individual. So they need to understand that as well. Now, as far as the 2010 census is concerned, the 2010 census was conducted as of April 1st, 2010, and used one of the shortest questionnaires in U.S. history. The questionnaire asked 10 questions of all households in the United States and island areas related to the name, gender, age, race, ethnicity, relationship, and whether you own or rent your home. Collection of the data about education, housing, variety of data captured through the monthly American Community Survey. However, we collect data through a variety of surveys. And you may have perhaps received a survey in the mail and it wasn't a census year. I've had several people over the years to say, I've already filled out my census form. Which in fact we have to explain to them that was not your census form, it was a survey that was being done that we conduct to determine a lot more than just the count and to draw the districts, to redraw the districts and for the funding. So that needs to be explained to people as well, because if in 2010 when they told us that they had, when we met with individuals and they told us they've already filled it out, it was kind of hard to convince them that that was not the form where we're trying to count people every 10 years. So if you're not aware of that, you all are perhaps aware of it, but people need to be educated about that as well. The economic census for all businesses is happening now. And most of that, we usually conduct surveys and studies and reporting. And in 2017, we will have another, we will have some other data update on the economic status of every area. The Complete Count Committee And that's what you hear a lot from us as partnership specialists, Juanita and myself, and the other partnership specialists. Right now, there's only one of us in each state, and we have to cover the entire state. And the plan that we're using here in North Carolina is to meet with the county managers. And the county managers are providing us with assistance in developing forming the complete count committees. And so far, I've met with 44 county managers in the state of North Carolina, and all of them have committed in forming a complete count committee. Our first ask is normally to appoint a person that we could work with, because we realize that all of our county managers are extremely busy. So we don't want to tie them up. And I hope Mr. Nurio don't mind me saying this, but there are 2 county managers that said they would be the liaisons because they want to be that close to the process. So I appreciate that so much, and I want you to know that I'm sharing that with the other county managers I meet with. If you want me to stop, I will. And Warren County manager, as a matter of fact, he said he would be the liaison for the 2020 census. And their numbers increased, highly increased from 2000 to 2010. And I asked them, when we met with them, what do they attribute to their success? And the county manager was an enumerator. He went from door to door. So I thought that was really outstanding. I like to share that story as well. But he said that he would be the liaison too. But we don't want to tie them up. But the Complete Count Committee is the committee that has encouraged, that encouraged the community. We focus on the Complete Count Committee, and that's what this training is really all about, is the development of the outreach plan tailored to the unique characteristics of each community. And the people in the community need to work together. And you do that by, first of all, identifying those individuals that are the trusted voices in the community. The Complete Count Committee know the value of the census and the importance of an accurate count in their community. They also know the value of one trusted person telling another person that the census is easy, safe, and important. We need you to complete the census, and we need you to tell your family, friends, and neighbors to complete the census. Your community's voice depends on it. As the 2020 census gets closer, the Census Bureau will also launch a robust communications campaign. We'll use advertisement, conduct outreach, and provide promotional materials, and you can leverage our efforts in your own community through your Complete Count Committee. And later on, you all will see what Gaston County did in 2000 and 2010. Juan Garcia has been working on the census. I think this is your 3rd or 4th one. Okay. And he knows what it takes to get the people together, and the people we're talking about are those trusted voices. So you need to make sure that whoever you ask to serve on the Complete Count Committee, they are considered as the trusted voices in the community. When is the time to get organized? Right now. We actually started meeting with mayors of the highest populated cities in the state of North Carolina, well, in our region, in January of 2017. And we reached out to them, and of course, several of them have changed across the states. So we're revisiting the mayors, but we know that the majority of the programs that are funded through the federal government is used through the county. And the county can reach out to those people, and they know those trusted voices within those departments and within those communities that will encourage people and help them to understand that you're getting this food program because of the federal government. A lot of people, most of us in here work, and a lot of people don't understand that when we pay these federal taxes, a lot of that money goes to our headquarters, or go to Washington, and it's funneled back through the community. $679 billion comes back to the community every year. And that money is based on that census count. So we need to educate our community about the fact that they need to make sure that they encourage others to fill out these forms and send them in. And we know that there is an issue right now with broadband. We don't have that much of a problem here in central North Carolina, but on western and eastern, there are problems with broadband being provided. So we are partnering, or we are working on partnering with some of the providers so they can have something set up to, so people can have access to Wi-Fi during that time. When we're going to talk about today, more so than anything, we're going to discuss, and we're going to do a little, we're just going to ask you all to fill out some information that I've included in your packet on your chairpersons of your subcommittees, and we're going to talk about the subcommittees. Right now, what we'd like for you to do is start thinking about the people that you like to chair some of the subcommittees that we'll be discussing. We have found that the success of those complete count committees and those chairpersons that have worked on these committees in the past, based on the information that was gathered from those committees and the focus group sessions, the summary report submitted by the partnership specialists customize and design the committee to reflect a true snapshot of your community. Iredell and Statesville is not like Mecklenburg and Charlotte. Cabarrus and Concord is going to be different from Rowan and Salisbury. So we just need to make sure that you set up the committees conducive to your community and get the information to the people in your community. And as the liaison of whatever role you're playing today in attending this session, you will find that you probably already know certain people that can chair these subcommittees. But the subcommittee chair people will be the foundation of getting that information out to the communities and being very effective with it. The U.S. Census Bureau recommends structure for complete count committees, maximizing the effectiveness of the committee outreach strategies in their communities. However, the committees are encouraged to adopt their own structure based on the determination of their unique community needs and maximize the effectiveness of the outreach. Once these needs are determined, a committee may choose to create a subcommittee dedicated to the needs regardless to the structure of the government. The committee should include members with experience in the following areas of government work, workforce development, faith-based community, education, media, minority organization, community organizations, and businesses. The Census Bureau encouraged community-based complete count committees as well, particularly in the hard-to-count areas, to form complete count committees. hard-to-count areas may be hidden or overcrowded housing, population that speak little or no English, off-campus apartments, new immigrant population, people displaced by natural disasters such as floods, fires, hurricanes, housing with restricted access, like gated communities or areas where migrant or seasonal workers live. And one of the principal benefits of the Complete Count Community program is the synergy effect of a community working together to spread the word about the importance of the census and the value of participating, being counted is this in the census process. Now, this is just a list of the subcommittees, and we ask you to consider this, and this is not something that you necessarily need to do because it may not work in your community, but consider these subcommittees. We're talking about the government, education, faith-based, media, housing, recruiting, community-based, business, senior citizens, and philanthropy. So we know that in Charlotte in 2010, the mayor may have set up a complete count committee, or the Center City Partners, if you all are familiar with the Center City Partners, those that are not from Charlotte. But they decided to set up a complete count committee, but Patrick Graham over at the Urban League decided that he wanted to set up a complete count committee with the Greek organizations from the African American community, because the African American communities, as well as the Hispanic communities, and mostly children, are grossly undercounted. But he decided he wanted to set it up with the African American community, and he just got the Greek organizations together. At the time it was 8, it's 9 now. And they actually decided that they came up with a plan on that particular complete count committee to look at those hard to count areas, and on census day and a few days after that, they went from door to door to assist people or encourage people to fill out the census information. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the subcommittees, and we're talking about the community organizations, and we don't want anyone to go untouched with the reasons as to why it's important that they fill out the information for the census. Now, we have mapping available, and if you go to our website, www.census.gov, what you will find is there are areas in all of the communities that have been hard to count, and there were low response rates in 2010, and we know that if you access, and most of you, if you don't have access, your geographer would have the information or could access the information, but you can identify the tracks where people have not responded in years past. But there lies the culprit that's not allowing you to get the funding that you deserve in your county or in your city. And a lot of people don't understand that those programs, the majority of the programs that are listed, that are available for everyone in the city is listed, and they need to know that. And some of them could perhaps relate to them. And I'm emphasizing the fact that it's the hard to count communities that we are focusing on, and we want to get our numbers up. What we're going to do is take a break, and I'd like for you all to think about who may be great in working as a complete count committee member in your community. Then I'd like to hear about the kinds of individuals and organizations you would invite to form a complete count committee in your community. I've enclosed in the packet that was on the table. Did everyone get a packet? We do have some additional packets. I had some people to come in. Okay. If you can start listing, it's a form on the other side of the, inside, the people that you would perhaps think about that could serve on those committees, those subcommittees. We have them broken down. And just discuss, especially if you, like you're in Iredell and Statesville, you know, if you're together, you all might know some of the same people, and that's what we've been able to do in the past, is just get you to just start thinking about those individuals, because this training is the formation of the subcommittees, is what we're emphasizing. There is a more in-depth training for the complete count committees, and we will be able to come back and do that once you have actually formed that committee in your area. So if you all would just start working on that, and feel free to just take a break, and you know, you can get you some refreshments over here and just talk about it. gentlemen, we want to reconvene, and I'd just like to just reiterate the fact that we need to make sure that everyone is signed in, as well as those that came in a little late. Do you mind just standing up and sharing with the group what county and what city you're representing?
Hello, I'm George Daniels, and I'm with the City of Concord, and we're in Cabarrus County.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Hadia Hayes, City Clerk and Communications for Bessemer City and Gaston County.
Michael Sandy, Planning Director for Stanley County.
Thank you all so very much for being here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good morning. I'm Stacy Carlos from Raleigh, Wake County with NC Counts Coalition.
Stacy has been trying to get to this training and to this group for a long time, and she got the invitation, and I'm glad that she was able to come to be with us today from North Carolina Counts out of Raleigh. So you all may want to talk with her as well as a resource person, and she's very familiar with the problem that we're having, not only with the census count, but with other areas as well as it relates to those that are undercounted. Okay, moving right along. I guess most people that we ask to form these complete count committee want to know, what will we be doing as partnership specialists? We had a total of about 23 partnership specialists in the state of North Carolina in 2010. And right now, it's just me because of budget restraints, but we will be hiring additional partnership specialists. And they will be perhaps coming on, we have a few that will be coming on in July, but the majority of them will be coming on in October of this year. But what we will be available to do is to assist you with the formation of your complete count committees. And as we mentioned earlier, we will have an in-depth training on the complete count committees. Now, some of you perhaps can just take this information and start your planning process. And we plan to provide you with guidance on the complete count committee. We do have a guide we have that will be available, and other information that will be available online. But the closer we get to the launch, and that will be a year out, that will be a massive launch on getting people prepared. We can provide you with, you'll see a lot of advertisement, and we usually have a lot of giveaways, just reminders for people. I have so many cups from 2000 and 2010 and t-shirts and umbrellas. I can't forget the census in my house. And some people's houses I go into, they still have the magnets on the refrigerators from 2000. I say, wow, they really can't forget the census. So we want to provide individuals with reminders as we go forth with trying to get an accurate count as we possibly can. But I cannot overemphasize the fact that the complete count committee is going to be critical in making sure we get a more accurate count. Now, we're hoping that this group will be the group that will initiate the creation of that complete committee, the complete count committee. And we cannot overemphasize how it is important that those trusted voices sit around the table. And Kelly, I just like to bring this up at all the meetings that I've had. So some of you may have heard this, have been redundant with this story. But in February of 2017, our regional director called us from Atlanta and asked us to, because of the upheaval here in Mecklenburg County, and he asked us to get a meeting with the Hispanic community. And that was on a Monday, so we had to make that happen on a Friday. And he came in from Atlanta, and I went to the Community Relations Department for the City of Charlotte and asked them to get us the name of a list of the Hispanic leaders so we can speak with them about the problem that was happening with the community and the government, so we could help them be better prepared for the decennial for 2020. This happened in 2017. So we were able to get about 15 leaders from the Hispanic community to come and sit around the table. I was there, Kelly was there. My job was just to get them together. Kelly's job as the data dissemination person was to bring the data. Mr. Grandy wanted to just meet with them to ask, what can we do to ease your minds, to let you know that you're not threatened if you fill out this census information. But the kicker was Kelly passed out the information that was gathered from the 2010 census and other surveys. And they were very upset. That group of Hispanics said, this is incorrect information. This is not accurate. This is wrong. I mean, she's good friends with a lot of them now because they really followed up with her. And they requested a lot. They sent me emails. They requested a lot of more information. They even agreed to volunteer to work with the census. And Mr. Grandy did tell them we do not work with volunteers for the decennial because you have to be sworn in. But they did want to work with us, and she's had a lot of conversations with them. But they wanted to make sure that their information was accurate. And Mr. Grandy simply said, this is what you get when you don't fill out the information. It's like you don't exist. So they are eager and continue to communicate with Kelly and have communicated with me so they can make sure that they have representation that's working with organizations like yours across our state to make sure that those individuals were trusted voices. They are the trusted voices in the community, but they were moved enough to say, we'll do this for free. And that's what we have to do sometimes is, my hat is off to Kelly and the group that she works with because they really have that data available and it's real information. And she's available to help anybody gather any information. But that was one of the things that I think that we will see the numbers increase and we will have a better number for the Hispanic community. And we need, yes ma'am?
So can you provide us the list of those folks that you were working with so we can make sure that we include them as part of our process?
Yes, I will. So that's what we have to do. We have to show people or shock people with the fact that this is what happens. You just don't exist. And if you don't exist, you're not counted. And so we're preparing you so you can make sure that you have those individuals that are going to sit at the table. Now, as a trusted voice, they may decide that they want to set up their own complete count committees like Patrick Graham did, with the African American community. Kelly, did you want to speak on that at all?
No, there was a lot of interest after that. Okay. I don't really have anything formal to say, but there was a lot of interest after that. I think when Laura called me and she said, yeah, Mr. Grandy's coming to Charlotte and he's meeting with leaders in the Hispanic community, and I said, wait, when is this? And it was like just a few days away. Remember? I remember my reaction. And so I quickly pulled a bunch of information together just across surveys because we have so many different data sources available and people aren't aware of that. Economic data, which obviously includes business data, information from the American Community Survey. And I did some analysis for them because I knew this was for the regional director, and we needed to really pull something together that was meaningful for these people. And yeah, the reaction was, it was strong, but it was also, they were very, very open because they saw the potential for what could be available to them and how useful it would be, even though it was off. What can we do to get it right? And this really could be, this could be great for our community. So, good reaction.
And Dina, I'll provide you with that list as well. Okay, what I like to do is just go around and see how you all are progressing with the list. And just ask, if you can just tell me just a little bit of what you think of people that you may think, not necessarily the names, but if they're, a certain person in the community, just to get an idea of what you're thinking could possibly happen to make sure that you have those individuals sitting around the table and are serving on these subcommittees. So everybody don't have to stand up at once. But if you can raise your hand, she's going to bring the microphone to you so you can share with the group.
Yeah, so we talked about from the government side, obviously elected officials from the different municipalities from the county. For the education side, we've got a parent group called Our Schools First that really champions bonds and sales tax initiatives and that kind of thing. But they've got a really good messaging program to get to parents of students, that kind of thing, as well as some of the superintendents and the president of the community college. Faith-based, looking at the some of the faith-based organizations that deal primarily with people maybe who are homeless or hungry or that kind of thing, because those are people I'm assuming that can be undercounted pretty easily. And then media, just the typical newspaper, radio stations, that kind of thing that we deal with. Businesses, trying to find businesses that get a lot of foot traffic that come through, so franchise opportunities. One of the private utility companies we have, city utilities, and then also a couple agricultural folks in Iredell County. We've got a large agriculture component in the north end of our county, and so we do have a fair amount of migrant workers who come through. And then as far as community-based, the housing authorities, our aging agency, and public transportation agency is kind of what we were looking at. So that's it.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
George, we'll get you off the hook because Kannapolis and Cabarrus, so we should get you covered as well. Of course, many of the same folks you mentioned. We have a Hispanic coalition that just started not too long ago, so definitely involving them. The Health Alliance is a great partner. We've set up a mental health advisory board to help us get through opioid and mental health crises in the area, and that consists of 30 leaders from different segments of the population. Rotary clubs are very important in Cabarrus County. That's how information travels. We have a literacy council that does a lot of outreach with, obviously, folks who can't read who are from multiple nationalities. We had the mill workers a long time ago, so you have that population, aging population, as well as immigrant communities. Our downtown corporations, the Red Cross, you mentioned folks who get fire assistance. We had discussed that in fire departments and how they're trusted. Well, looking at who's displaced, well, the Red Cross is their first point of contact, and they've done a lot of work over the years to establish relationships and show that they're not actually part of the government, which is obviously helpful in this situation. We have a cooperative Christian ministries that brings all the churches together, our chambers, our health clinics, our park and rec departments, local theaters, boys and girls clubs, there's cruise-ins. The farmers market is a great place to reach folks. Lunch Plus is a free lunch service that's offered to seniors, and so that's a good way to reach folks who normally don't get out and socialize in their community. Human services, neighborhood associations, nursing home outreach to make sure those folks get counted. School and parish nurses probably have great relationships with families that we don't. Our local newspapers, and then the county has its own television station. NC Counts we're going to be counting on you. Community colleges, Concord Mills, see what kind of partnerships can happen there. The NC Works office, and somehow establishing relationships with restaurant owners may go a long way as well.
Thank you. That was a lot. And that's what we need from each county, from each city, is to know. You already know these things. You know who you need to reach out to. And it's going to be really, really important that you don't miss anyone. You know, everything that she talked about, we need to make sure, both of them, we need to make sure that we reach out to them. Those places that are highly trafficked, we need to make sure that there are signs and there are posters and there are some giveaways, but reminders. And as I mentioned earlier, once we get closer to the census of April of 2020, we'll be doing a lot, but there are some things that the complete count committees can do up front. I don't want to take away any of one's thunder about Gaston County, but they didn't put a bunch of money in, but they did a lot, and they increased tremendously in Gaston County with their census, with their numbers, because of what they did as a committee. One of the things that we're encouraging, we're focusing on, and particularly for Mecklenburg County, we have the pay scale for the jobs that we are recruiting for right now. And the first committee that we'd like for you all to consider forming, the subcommittee, is a recruiting committee. We have already run into obstacles because since we're going through the internet or automation to do almost everything, which even when they go knock on the doors, they're going to have that handheld, taking the information. It won't be paper. They won't have the bags. It will be the handheld. We're having problems with people applying for the job, so we're asking for the libraries to engage or be part of the process for recruitment. Right now, we're referring people to USA Jobs, but we do have a list of the salaries that will be paid. We're looking for managers. Our office will be located, I don't know the exact address, but it's on the information that we have here. But it's on Independence Boulevard across from CarMax for those that are in Charlotte. And they will be opening offices in other areas, in other cities around the state. We're not sure exactly how many will be opening, but there will be several, and there will be feed-ins. Yes, ma'am.
How do you anticipate the libraries would help with that recruitment process?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't complete that. Because of the fact that some people, and a lot of them may be seasoned like me and we're not computer literate, want to apply, and we were used to filling out the paper copies of everything. Well, everything has to be done online. So we're asking the libraries to partner with us. We're going through the counties and asking them to give us a time and dates that we can come or send people to the library with someone trained to assist them to go through the process. We all had to go through the application process online as well and found some flaws, and we think that they are fixed. But people still, especially the population that come back to work every decennial, may not be familiar with it, so we need the libraries to have someone on staff that can assist someone to fill out the application. Now, this is just the first wave of employees that we're looking for to manage the office here in Charlotte. We also will be looking for partnership specialists to do what we do, which is the training and outreach and education, which will not require we have to go through a process of filling out the application, but from our job to the time that they go and knock on the doors, they've got to do it all by way of computer.
Have you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to Are you working with the NC Works departments? So it's the revised job employment security commission.
No, we have not in North Carolina. I have not started. I started a communications and meeting with Patrick Graham at North Carolina, at Charlotte Works, but I haven't reached out and on statewide level, and it's only because of the time, you know, and we will be doing that though. But yes, I'm writing that down now.
I only suggest that because they have those exact processes and people trained in place. And in our
Okay.
community, that's kind of where we refer folks to for that very process. So at least in Cabarrus, it's a very important partner in that transition to digital employment.
Thank you for that information, because when we're talking about computers and people assisting people, and we're talking about them applying and the time of day and all of that, and since we were covering and making contact with all of the county managers, we didn't pigeonhole that. Whatever recommendations that we can get to the people, to let the people know that and if it's anyone that any of you know that might be interested in working for the census, just ask them to watch, and we're going to give you the information about the website where the jobs are available. Just direct them to that website. And if they really want to work for the census, they just have to follow the website, because it may be a 2-week window that they can apply for a certain position, and they're not going to take but so many applications. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. What's the process for the training for the subcommittee people? Is that going to be solely online as well, or do you guys come out and meet?
No, we have guides and training manuals for the complete count committees. This is just the subcommittee training and for the liaison. So once you get your complete count committee together, we will start scheduling to the best of our ability to come out and do the full-blown training, which will take a little bit more time. Of course, it'll take more time than this. But as you leave here, when you leave here today, hopefully, and you have those people in mind and you start talking to those people, what we found and what I know worked in Gaston County, I keep picking on Gaston County, but they did such a great job, is that you have those individuals like a communication person, a media person, that's what they do. They just create stuff, you know, on how to get the information out to the community. The faith-based, you have that person from the faith-based community that can relate to the other clergy in the community. They can get them together, and they do things on Sunday through that complete count committee in the whole area, in the whole city, in the whole county. They may talk about the census, the North Carolina counts, or the count of the kids, and as information that I'll be sharing with you later on. But for every person that's counted, the state of North Carolina receives $1,623 for and that's every year. That's every year. You know, we got $16 billion. We've been getting $16 billion for the last 17 years from the 2010 census. So our numbers are going to increase. Every county that I've met with, there are a couple that their population has not increased, but the majority of the counties that I've met with, people are moving from all over to the state of North Carolina. So we are targeted to get another seat in Congress. And of course, there will be some redistricting done. But people need to know that simple fact that for every person that's not counted, it's $1,623 a year. And these are programs that feed into the county and the city programs. So they need to understand that. And that's why I said, if you don't bring anything home to individuals, just tell them, and it's safe, you know. But I can't tell anybody in any of these towns that it's safe and it's confidential, and they believe me, because I don't know everybody. I can tell my family, my friends, you know, I have credibility with them, you know, and they'll vote for anybody I tell them to vote for. They'll believe that, you know. So that's what we're talking about. You have to bring those trusted voices like we did in February with the Hispanic community, and show them, you know, what it means, but you need to tell them that. But that is, I know I went around answering your question, but yeah, there will be some in-depth training. And it will be, you know, once we start scheduling the training, it will probably be the last quarter of this year and the first quarter of next year. But it's going to be ongoing, you know, in terms of us doing the training, and it's based on the number of people, how quickly we can do it, but we'd like to do it in groups like this. Are there any other questions before I move ahead? I only have a few more slides, and then I'm going to turn it over to Juanita, and she's going to talk to you all about the immigrants. And then we're going to turn it over to Juan, who's going to show you a video from Gaston County. But once again, we're going to start recruiting September the 4th. And as I mentioned, it's going to be online. And they do need to have a phone or to put the information in, or they have to have access to a computer. But that's why we're saying we need assistance, and we need that recruiting subcommittee to start working with us right now. And just as information, I only have, I'm not sure how many copies I bought, but I have enough copies with the pay scale for Mecklenburg County, and it's not bad. It's not bad at all. I mean, the enumerators, which is normally the lowest paid, is going to be paid $20 an hour, and of course that comes at the end. But we do need those testing spaces and computers and, you know, someone there that can assist. Did you see it, Juanita? Okay. But this is the information that's somewhat different from the information that you have in your PowerPoint in reference to the jobs. We have a toll-free jobs line, and we have the www.usajobs.gov. And I just encourage you, before you even do it, just go in on yourself so you can familiarize yourself with it, so you can let people know that we're looking for individuals to assist us as soon as possible in all of these areas. And we came on in January of 2017 as partnership specialists because they felt like if we can get out to the communities and share with the communities the importance of getting started right now, that we can get everything rolling for everybody. So that's kind of where we are. I am looking for that the information on the jobs, but I know I have it with me because I had it out earlier, but I'll hand that out to you all about the positions that are available that will probably be opening in other areas as well. I found it, Juanita. So, the next steps. I just like for those of you that have started, for you to finalize your lists and just let me know. My card is in the packet that you have there, and I have additional cards that I put on the table if you need, and then we will schedule a workshop and the strategies that could possibly be used to make sure that we're on our way to getting these complete count committees formed and spread the word throughout the communities about the importance of the complete count committee. The George Washington University did that study on counting dollars that came up with the figure of what each person gets for what we get for each person that's counted for the decennial. We have that. We also have data on our website that will let you see where you fared as a city and a county in the response rate from 2000 to 2010. I have that data here if you want to ask me after we finish, if you don't have it yet. So we want to increase the numbers. North Carolina numbers increased a couple of numbers. But Mecklenburg County was right at 74% in 2000 as well as 2010 in response rate. Now that's just people responding to the form in 2010, but we're expecting them to those numbers to actually go up tremendously, because we just talked to someone the other day who told us that just in Mecklenburg County alone, 66 people a day is moving into Mecklenburg County. And I live in this area, and I can go to sleep and wake up, and there's a building up, and people are living in those, moving and living in those buildings, you know, overnight. So I know it's increasing tremendously, and it is in other areas in North Carolina, as I have spoken with the county managers. So once again, I want to thank you, and I want to bring Juanita up so she can talk to you all about the immigrant population, the Hispanic population.
Thank you, Laura. So I'm going to discuss with you possibly some strategies on the outreach for the Hispanic Latino community, and then later I will address the migrant and seasonal farm workers, as well as the H-2A visa workers that are in North Carolina. I looked up some of the data for some of your counties, and as I was looking at where is the Hispanic Latino population in your COG area, which includes the counties of Anson, Cabarrus, is that how you, Cabarrus? Gaston, Iredell, Mecklenburg, Rowan, Stanley, and Union. And of course, as Laura mentioned earlier, the bulk of your Latino or Hispanic community is in Mecklenburg County. So I was looking at that, and our figures for 2010 reflect that Mecklenburg County had 127,614 people of Hispanic or Latino background. And that constitutes approximately 12.6% of your population. So when we look at, at these numbers, we're looking at immigrants, both that have been here for a while and new immigrants who have arrived in more recent years. So we now have a population that may or may not speak the English language, that may speak only Spanish or any other language, but again, I'm focusing on the Hispanic Latino population. We also know that you have, in the agriculture communities, you have several other indigenous languages that are spoken. So we've got a challenge in terms of how do we reach this population? Who do we have out there? Who are the trusted voices, as Laura mentioned? Who are these trusted voices that we can reach out to deliver the message about the importance of being counted in the 2020 census? How do we reach them? Who are those individuals that can serve on your complete count committees, on your sub-complete count committees, that can get the message out in the appropriate language, in a culturally sensitive way? And where are these individuals? How do we get to them? As I look further into Mecklenburg County, and Laura had mentioned earlier, their meeting with the Hispanic Latinos in Mecklenburg County here in Charlotte. I was looking at some of those individuals, and what came up was the Latin American Coalition, and LACE, the Latin American Council of Charlotte. And then it goes further to other areas, because we look at those particular groups, but we also want to look at these service providers. who are those individuals that are delivering services? Whereas where the Latin American Coalition and LACE, the Latin American Council of Charlotte, does deliver some services, there are other entities in your county that also deliver services to them. And we're looking at health centers. You know, those are going to be key. You have several health centers in the area. The other area, of course, is the faith-based, where our places of worship. You know, do they have Spanish language services, masses, whatever? You know, the faith is. We want to reach there. Strong possibilities that some of those people, and in some of these instances in faith-based, they actually have an outreach person that reaches out to the Hispanic Latino community that they provide services to. So you want to consider them. And just to give you an idea, for Mecklenburg County, I think Laura alluded to this earlier, the mail response rate for Mecklenburg County for 2010 was 75%. You know, so there's a lot of room for improving our outreach and improving the count for 2020. And so ensuring that we have a subcommittee that can focus on, populations like the Hispanic Latino would help you, increase that response rate for 2020. As I look into some of the other areas, and I know I don't have all the counties present here, but I'm going to look at Cabarrus. Got it. Okay, so when I look at Cabarrus, I'm looking at a 78% response rate for 2010. That's your mail response rate, okay? And your Hispanic Latino population is 18,877, which constitutes about 9.8% of your population. Again, you want to look at those entities that are there to assist you with that outreach. And for your county, I came across the Community Free Clinic, and they have bilingual staff, and they're open to considering some outreach. So we know that they have quite a few Hispanic Latinos that seek services there. And in addition to that, of course, you want your faith-based communities and all your other service providers. And I think there was mentioned in one of the subcommittees as businesses. You also have a lot of Hispanic Latino businesses in all of these counties where you have high concentrations of the population. Iredell? That's you. Okay, so your 2010 response rate was 80%. Your Hispanic Latino population is 12,130, and that's based on the, let me back up, because the source is the U.S. Census Bureau 2012-2016 American Community Survey. Okay, so that's where those numbers are coming from. And the 12,000 plus is like 7.2% of your population. Okay, and let's see. What do I have for you guys? And I think I have the same thing as, the health centers, the businesses, the faith-based communities, some of the special events that are taking place in your county.
We also have one of our elementary schools is a dual immersion program.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be one of the places that we would target for that as well.
Right, right. All righty, and then I have, let's see, Gaston. And for Gaston, your 2010 response rate is at 78%. Gaston back there. Your Hispanic Latino population is estimated at 13,527. And that constitutes about 6.4% of your population. okay? And, and Lincoln, I think we have somebody from Lincoln County right here, okay? So your response rates were 78%, and your Hispanic Latino population is approximately 5,628, which constitutes about 7.1% of your population, okay? And I don't think there's, is there a county that I missed? I don't think I did, okay. I don't, but I can pull that up for you, okay? And anybody else that needs for a different county, I can do that too, okay? I'm sorry? Catawba. I think I did Catawba before at one of the other sessions, but I can provide that. That's, yes. You have it? Okay. Well, that's all right. We can, All right. I believe that Laura may have Catawba for you. Okay, so we'll get that. So the other population that I wanted to discuss with you all is the migrant and seasonal farm workers. And I'm going to combine migrant and seasonal farm workers as well as the H-2A workers. Is everybody familiar with the H-2A visa workers? Okay, so most of your counties have, with the exception of Gaston, I think everybody else has a number of H-2A visa workers, and those are workers that are recruited right now. They're mostly recruited out of Mexico. They're brought in for agriculture work. They have a contract that they sign, and they have a certification. So growers in your counties will have a certain amount of workers that they require to harvest their crop. Okay, and these individuals are here for a very specific period of time. In some instances, it's only for certain crops that they're brought in. Okay, so let's see. The first county that comes up here is Cabarrus. Cabarrus, is that right? Okay, and you have a very small group of migrant seasonal farm workers is estimated, and these estimates are provided by the North Carolina Department of Commerce, the Workforce Solutions Agriculture Services, and they have put together, and they have a website where they track H-2As, okay? So your migrant and seasonal farm workers, those are your domestic workers that move around the East Coast. And that was 200. In terms of estimated H-2A workers, it's a very small number. It's 6. And this report actually tracks the number of workers that are brought into each of your counties since 1980. So you can actually go online and find this, and you can see how that either. This is North Carolina Department of Commerce. I don't have the website. Let me see. No, she didn't include it in here either. But it's North Carolina Department of Commerce, Workforce Solutions, Agricultural Services. Okay, and they do this on an annual basis. The numbers you're getting right now are the numbers for 2016. That's the most current that the state has right now. Okay, Gaston, you have migrant and seasonal farm workers, numbering estimated at 340. You have 0 estimated H-2A workers. Erdell, you have about 200 migrant and seasonal farm workers and an estimated 25 H-2A. And they're generally in your county anywhere between January and December. Very short stays, only specific crops. Mecklenburg counts with about 525 migrant and seasonal farm workers and 0 H-2As. What's the other one? Lincoln. Approximately 500 migrant and seasonal farm workers, and you're looking at about 50 H-2A workers in your county, okay? Now, as we look at who is out there that works or reaches out or provides services to migrant and seasonal farm workers, we are working with the North Carolina Department of Commerce, their Division of Employment, to do some outreach. They have outreach workers throughout the state, and they are more than willing to help promote the 2020 census. Okay, so we're going to be doing, myself and Kelly, we will be doing a presentation to this group of outreach workers next month. The other areas, and of course I had already mentioned the health clinics, and there's quite a few of them throughout the state. But in addition to that, we're also going to partner, and you might also want to reach out to your public schools, because they do have the Title I program, under which most migrant and seasonal farm worker children fall under. Some of the schools have this program. Others use neighboring county services because they're such small counties or very small populations. So you want to reach out to that child migrant education component, which falls under Title I. And again, when you're considering your subcommittees, you want to consider, a component. I think somebody in Gaston had mentioned this earlier. You want to consider possibly part of your, community subcommittee, including this population. As small as it is, remember Laura mentioned to you how much money is lost with every person that is not counted. So you want to do that. I had mentioned briefly earlier about languages. And in the migrant and seasonal farm worker community, specifically in that community, you have several indigenous languages, particularly with the Maya out of Guatemala and the Maya out of Mexico. In addition to the Maya, you have Mixtecos, and there you've got also another indigenous language. It's not as prevalent among the Mixtecos, but with the Mayan, we still have, in the home state like Florida, we have about 23 different indigenous languages that we deal with. There's 3 principal ones, and if need be, we can always find somebody that can assist with interpretation or translation. Laura also mentioned the undercount among children. And we find that in the migrant and seasonal farm worker population, it's higher than in the regular population. And a lot of the reason for that is because it's a very mobile population. Depending on what housing is available, most of the time children are not counted because, there may be issues with a lease, overcrowding. Employers really don't want that many people in there. If they provide housing, don't want that many people in their housing, or those individuals that rent to them, these children are hidden from them. So it's going to be critical that we identify these trusted voices that can get this message out, and the importance of those children being counted, because we know that all these monies are coming in for childcare, okay, and we are working with the East Coast Migrant Head Start program to do that, and they are in some of your counties. And we want to make sure that we can have that outreach worker that goes out to their place of residence to explain to them and to impress upon them the importance of getting every child counted. And I think that's it. Any questions? Thank you. Laura?
Thank you, Juanita. That is some good information, and she has her cards available as well over at the table, so feel free to contact her about that information. At this time, I'd like to bring Juan Garcia up from Gaston County, and he's going to share with us information in reference to the Complete Count Committee. So, without any further ado, this is the fun part.
I count. Kabilang ako. I count.
I count.
I count too.
You count.
Everybody counts.
When it comes to the census, everybody does count.
State and federal money that is given to Gaston County is determined by how many people were counted in the census.
That means every single person counts.
The county gets money from the federal government for things like education, housing, health care, and other services that are important to you and your family.
North Carolina also uses census figures to determine what share of the sales tax Gaston County will get, and how much money the state will give the county for other services like new schools, roads, highways, and bridges.
In order to get the amount of money that Gaston County needs, every person must be counted.
This isn't extra money so the county can add new services.
This money is used to help pay for services Gaston County already offers.
The more money the county gets from the state and federal governments, the better.
The better to serve you and your family.
If everyone isn't counted, then the county will have to spend more of its own money to continue operating these services.
That could mean additional taxes for the citizens of Gaston County.
So being counted benefits you directly.
It's easy to be counted.
Just watch for your census form in the mail in mid to late March or early April.
Fill it out, put it in the self-addressed, stamped envelope, and send it back. It's that easy.
And remember, the census is strictly confidential. The information on your survey cannot be shared with anyone, including immigration, IRS, the courts, or the police.
There is no reason not to fill out your census form, so please don't put it off.
As soon as it comes, fill it out and send it back.
So stand up and be counted for Gaston County.
It counts.
You count. Everybody counts.
If you have any questions about your census form or need help filling it out, call 1-888-325-7733.
Well, as you can see, this is from the year 2000. We have a little bit more hair back then. The computers were a little different, no flat screens like we have today. And I would just want to thank the Department of Commerce, the Census Bureau, the City of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, Mecklenburg County manager for allowing this training and allow me to present what we did for Gaston County, not only in 2000, but in 2010. Every decennial census is a little bit different. I think we have different challenges. We have these challenges today for 2020. You probably already know about the inclusion of the question about citizenship. It's coming back. In 2000, we had the question. In 2010, we didn't have it. And apparently, the Department of Justice is asking the Department of Commerce to have the question back in the decennial census. And I know the Census Bureau will probably have more information about it. I work for the Planning Department, and for the last 21 years, I've been doing data analysis. I do GIS data analysis, so kind of help the, not only with promoting the census, the decennial census, but also responding to the Census Bureau with the boundary and annexation survey program. Some of you will have done that with paper, purple pencil, red pencil, and a ruler back in the day. Now you do it digital with famous software they use, the GOPS program, and also with the ArcGIS. But I think essential for having a good count is the LUCA program. And that is the update of the Census Bureau addresses. That is essential. If you don't have a good return of the addresses to the Census Bureau, let me tell you, you will miss a lot of those. And I say this because if you look in the list of some of the counties that respond to the Census 20, you have 50% response rate, also 80% response rate. Well, back in 2000, they didn't have the 80%, they have only 50%. But what was the problem? It was the address list the Census Bureau sent to the county, and the county couldn't respond back with the new addresses. Now, this year, since I deal with the data, we have some issues with the data. Some of the addresses they sent to us, they don't have longitude and latitude in their address list, so we couldn't locate those addresses, but we had it. Some of the names were wrong. Some of the points they have in the address list were in the wrong place. And apparently, back in 2009, when the Census Bureau had something that's called the Canvassing Operation Program, it was a handheld device they used to locate those new addresses. Apparently, some of those were 500 feet, maybe 1,000 feet away from the location, from the home. So you have to double check on that. So having a good address list and send those back to the Census Bureau, it probably will be a better response rate. The Census Bureau had 71% in 2000, we had 68% in 2000, and we went and jumped to 78% in 2010. And how we did it? So we based, thank you to some of the meetings that we had back in 2009 and 2008. First, we started forming the Complete Count Committee. And what we did with the Complete Count Committee, we divided in actually the highest elected official. Then we have the Complete Count Committee chairman. Then we have the technical manager. I was part of the technical manager process. And then Mr. Willie King Jr., he was the outreach manager. So we have not only the technical manager, but the outreach manager. And then the subcommittees, faith-based, education, business, health, and some others. And under all these subcommittees, we have different people that help to go to these areas. The technical manager, my position was to create a lot of stuff to promote the Census Bureau. So we started looking in something back in the day, in 2010, 2009, 2008, brand new. It's called infographics. So we started developing a lot of pamphlets and documents based on infographics, something that the new generation was able to understand, especially the new generations. They don't like to read a lot of information about what is this, but if you put numbers and percentages in what represent to you, that is important for them. And we make it personal. We make it personal. We went to the schools, we went to the health department, we went to different faith-based organizations, and we tell them, if you don't fill this census form, this is what's going to happen. And that time was $1,100 per person. So we make it personal. We represent for the health department, we represent for the clinics, we represent for the faith-based communities. And since I deal with data analysis, we started looking into the hard-to-count areas, those census tracts that were very difficult to count people. So we target those. And since I'm part of the Hispanic community, the Latino community, reaching some of the data, we found that some of the Latino community, most of the Latino community live close to highways, interstates, apartment complexes. So we start targeting those areas. And part of the subcommittees, we have a Latino person, well-known in the community, who was helping us to promote the census, the decennial census for 2010. Well, we start with the process. We couldn't make a video for 2010 for different reasons, especially money. But what we started doing was billboards. And I know it's just the billboards, it's not just, but we target those areas that we know that were difficult to count. So we went to colleges and we put up billboards. Went to close to high schools, and we used the football state champion for 2009, I believe. It was at South Point High School, I believe, and we used their players and the coach. So we went, take a picture, create a big billboard, and we put it right there in front of the school. We did, close to one of the colleges, we put some of those billboards in there. We put a digital billboard on 85 with people from the community, and this is very essential. Trying to use people from the community, people that they're trusted voices. So we start getting more feedback from the community until we got feedback from Washington about our efforts with the decennial census. So we were invited to give our testimony at the Oversight Committee in Washington, D.C., and you can find this video on YouTube. We were with people from, actually a testimony from New York City. The other testimony was from Washington, D.C., from the Latino Coalition. The other one was from Chicago, and the other one was from Florida. Gaston County is a small county, but we have a challenge. We have 14 different municipalities. We have different neighborhoods, different type of city codes. So we work very, very close with the city managers, with the planning departments, in promoting the census, the decennial census for 2010. So we did our testimony. We learned other things that big cities were doing, cities with bigger budgets and more people, of course. And we started looking into other things, in language barriers, for example. So then we start creating billboards and pamphlets and some other things for the Laotian community. We didn't know that we have a big Laotian community and Vietnamese community in Gaston County, so we start targeting those areas, those census tracts. We went to the schools. We did a lot of stuff with the clinics, with the hospitals, with the health department, with the churches. And we went to those hard-to-count areas and grabbed the gatekeepers from those neighborhoods. And we tell them why it was so important for them to show their community what is the importance of returning the decennial census. We have the same questions like we have today. Why we don't trust government, why we have to respond to 10 questions when the Constitution only mandates only one, how many people lives in the household, and this is where the problem started. And some people say, well, we're going to respond only to question one. I don't want to respond to the other ones. Well, this is the problem. In 1970, send a census taker to your home, it costs you only $16. In 2010, it costs you about $95. And I think they're projecting for 2020, send a census taker to trying to get the other answers from you is going to take about $120 per census taker. I think that's pretty much what is in paper. So what we're trying to do is reduce those people that you don't know knocking at your door and ask you questions. The only good thing that I see this is that you can do that online. So we're now already forming our complete count committee. And back in 2010, after we testified in front of Congress, then the Census Bureau director came. And they said, okay, that's great. They want to know what we're doing. And basically was just targeting those areas in Gaston County that we thought that were important. And he went there, he saw our thing, and the last thing that we got from the Census Bureau was the truck. It was going to big cities, like I think he went to San Francisco, then Miami, Washington, and ended in Gaston County for somehow trying to promote the Census Bureau. We got a lot of attention about this thing nationally. And it was just simple things. It's just trying to get the right people to do the right things in the right place. And for us, worked. In 2000, we did a completely different approach. From 2010, we did one, and from 2020, now we're thinking about doing something completely different. Of course, using some of the stuff we did, forming the Complete Count Committee is very, very important. We met with United Way, we met with civil organizations in Gaston County, with the Hispanic community as well. I mean, we use even buses, and we put people in the community they trust, place them right there. Don't forget, you send the census form. We use a different slogan for that time, 10 questions, 10 years of impact or something like that. For 2000, it is I count. But it's important for you that the people that you choose in the Complete Count Committee talk to each other. And we have several meetings about, we got training from the Census Bureau. We have a good relationship with the Census Bureau. The partnership in that time, it was great relationship. They were more eager to learn what we were doing, and they were providing a lot of stuff that we were able to use in these different meetings that we have in Gaston County in different areas. Like I said, 14 different municipalities is a little challenging. Everyone is different. And the rural areas. Those rural areas are difficult to count as well. But we realized that talking to the people in their communities, the churches, the people they trust, that was very successful for us to get a good count on those census tracts. So, but again, I think the important thing over here is the addresses. You have to have a very good address list. And again, these are protected by Title 13, cannot be shared with nobody. And if you have any issues, of course, you can talk to the Census Bureau, and they will send you something completely different, or they will revise those with you. But other than that, it's just working with the community, be passionate about it. Why? Because you have to make it personal. It affects you in one way or another, okay? That's all I have to get for you guys. Thank you. If you have any questions?
And I don't know if he mentioned it, I did hear him mention it, but they only put $15,000 in their budget for that in 2010. But they had so many billboards. I used to drive through Gastonia, and they were on TV, but there was so much going on over there. And I really was not looking at the numbers, you know, as their numbers went up, but I knew they were doing some things that I hadn't seen being done across the state. So, and I apologize because he has another video or a PowerPoint that has a lot of information with everybody engaged and involved with the T-shirts on. They made their own T-shirts, and they were giving them out to the community. They had all types of events where they had the census signs and the signage, things that they had made within their community. But that's why their numbers increased. So, and what I'd like to do is bring Kelly and Juanita back up. David, who is our address person? We always say the census begins with geography and it ends with geography. And for those of you all that are in those areas, there will be deadlines for updating these addresses, and we will be, they will be getting you the information through our geography department in reference to what needs to be done as it relates to the addresses, because as each one of these counties that are represented here are aware of the fact that you are growing, and the information that you provide to the geography department through the census, you need to give them that information, and when they request information in the mail, respond to them as quickly as possible, because you will have an opportunity to update this information between now and April 1st. That is the census day, and that is the date that's going to basically cut off all of the numbers that we're looking at, are the addresses that we're looking at that particular time. But I just want to answer and address some of the questions that was asked, or just a response rate. Someone asked about Cleveland County. Cleveland County in 2000 did 68%, and in 2010 it was 77%. So they did something that made a difference. Catawba County, Catawba is really doing a lot of good things right now. We met with them first to do the Complete Count Committee training. They went from 75 to 79, and they said they were grossly undercounted in Catawba County. But we've already met with their COG group there, and we've had about 4 or 5 meetings with them. They had a Complete Count Committee, as did Gastonia. They had a meeting last week with the people of interest that they want to be the chairs of those particular committees even before we did this. So, and Jacksonville, North Carolina also have their Complete Count Committee group already formed. So it's not too early to get started. And when we're talking about funding, that money is to be used at your discretion. We just ask you to make it a line item on your budget to focus on just the census. So Juanita and Kelly, if you all will come up, so if anyone have any questions, we will be able to answer those questions. I apologize, David is not here to talk in detail about the geography, but David Klein, and he will be the person that you might want to contact through this geography website.
I just have a couple of questions. Do you have any sense of when the 2020 census guide will be ready and when that in-depth training will be made available?
We are anticipating getting the info is finalized. We just have not received the copies, but we're talking about the last quarter of this year, and that we can start the actual training. I'll provide you with the packets, and the first quarter of next year. We hope to have everything covered, especially in North Carolina.
Now, is the expectation that everybody who's on your Complete Count Committee will participate in the training, or is it just for folks like us around these tables today?
No, I would hope that the training would include the subcommittee chairpersons.
That's helpful.
More so than anything else.
And in terms of the timing, when you said April 1st is the census date, is that April 1st, 2019? Is that when people will be starting to be asked to complete it? What's the time frame for which people will be asked to complete the census?
And one that you might want to help me with this. The census day is April 1st, 2020.
Okay.
The information, the cards will go out starting in, I'll say the beginning of March, maybe the end of February, and March and April are going to be the focus. That's going to be time when you're going to hear so much about the census. But people will be made aware of the fact that they will be receiving that information in the mail. And as I mentioned earlier, they're going to get that card 4 times. And even if they don't respond, we can do, on a daily basis, you can check to see what areas are not responding. And it's usually the same ones, the ones that are undercounted. If you see those tracks, what you can do is start focusing on those tracks. But we will also have a call center where if they don't want to fill it out online, they can do a call into the call center. They will still have to have that code, that barcode. And if that doesn't work, of course, that would result in us going to knock on those doors. Because at the end of the day, in December of 2020, we have to give that information to the president so they can start the allocation of the funds as well as the redistricting and what have you. But the numbers for North Carolina are going to be essential because we need that other seat. I mean, we need it right now, but we really would like to have another voice in Washington for Congress.
Just one other question. You talked about the census is going to launch a big sort of public relations effort, a robust public relations effort. But do you have any problems with the county creating their own public relations campaign with their own sort of logos and slogans and all of that kind of stuff? Or do you need consistency between those messages, or have you?
No, not necessarily. As a matter of fact, that's why I wish. Yeah,
I can respond to that.
Yes,
the Census Bureau has some guidelines for using the census logo, and I think they're still working on the final for 2020, but they already have 1 or 2. I think one is blue and the other one is red for 2020. Well, there's some guidelines the Census Bureau want you to go with. However, it doesn't mean that you cannot use your own promotion materials to promote the census. It's just that they want a specific logo for Census 2020 to be in that specific promotional items that you want to do. But you can use, yeah, if you want to use people from the community, even better.
You know, you're good with like all forms of social media?
Yes.
That wasn't available in 2010, like
Right.
today, and is that acceptable?
Correct.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. And once again, just to reiterate, you can come up with your own slogan or your logo, because it's not ready yet, but you can start. They did it in Gaston County in 2010. They just ran away with it, you know, but it made a big difference.
And I was just going to add, I think once those guidelines are available, they would be at census.gov / 2020. So census.gov / 2020. So that'll be a sort of a repository, if you will, of resources for you all out in the community. I'm not sure what they have on there at this time, but they had toolkits for 2010 and quite a bit of information. But just wanted to add that. Thank you.
In some of those toolkits you can use with the utility bills. You can use it, you can modify, you can edit it, you can change the language. If they don't have those, for 2020 they have several languages. I think they have 14. For this one, for 2020, I think they have about 30 new, about that. So there's more languages included in there, and those toolkits will be available in different languages as well, for faith-based, for education, for health, different toolkits that you can use and modify as well.
I think something that would be helpful for us is to coordinate with Mecklenburg and the larger areas, because when you go out and do that community outreach and you're going to get that earned media value out of it, it'd be helpful for me if we could tag on to major initiatives you're doing, so that we can say, all right, this is happening in Mecklenburg County, and you'll have all the media come out, and then they could say, and by the way, it's also happening in Cabarrus or Iredell or wherever that may be. So at least maybe major initiatives and key dates we could coordinate through COG or with our respective organizations.
We would be happy to do some kind of regional communication strategy if others are interested in participating on that. I mean, I think that would be a good way to leverage our resources.
Oh, thank you. I have a question about the privacy concerns, not just something, 20 years ago, like saying this information is cannot be given to police or ICE or something else. Also online, you said that people are going to knock on the doors using the online service or the online versions. Is there anywhere online that we can check, that we can provide to the public, or just part of the survey maybe once they see on their tables that it could be proven, they can see on their eyes, or maybe it's like some kind of law that we can go on, we can show, is there something for privacy concerns ready for the public?
So what we generally use as a reference is Title 13, okay? And, I mean, we know that people are like, yeah, Title 13, what does it say? So particularly in some of our hard to count, hard to enumerate areas in those populations that are not necessarily English-speaking populations, we want to focus on explaining what that Title 13 is. It entitles you to privacy, confidentiality. We cannot share any of your information with anybody. In respect to the Hispanic Latino community, we itemize, immigration services, IRS, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to be, clear that when we use that, we make sure that they understand what that means. Thank you.
There's a question.
I was just going to say, I don't know if it's okay for me to add on, but with NC Counts for the confidentiality question, we do have a fact sheet for North Carolina. that's based around the law and just explaining the confidentiality of the census. And we are working to have that translated into several other languages that would be available to you all. So as folks ask, how is our information protected, or ensuring folks that the information cannot be used against them, and all of the legalities around the census.
And just to reiterate the fact that this is a self-response process on the internet. So, as I mentioned earlier, if there's 10 people living in your house and you only want to list 5, it's a self-response. So that's the best way that I can, that's the best information I can share with you about that. But the confidentiality of it is that they've got to hear it from you. They've got to hear it from the community people that it's going to be confidential. We had a situation, this similar situation came up with the Affordable Care Act. People wanted to know, who's going to get my information? We had to convince individuals who needed health care that this information will not go anywhere. You have to trust it if you want to get health care. So it's similar to that, but people need to understand it. It has to come from the voices of those that they trust.
Just a few questions regarding the timelines for informing you of the selected chairpersons and memberships of the various committees. What is the recommended timeline by which you prefer to receive those designations of chairpersons and such in order to meet, be able to form and do our work on a timely basis?
Okay.
When do you recommend that be finalized?
Okay, this is, the process would be, the next step will be, once you finalize that list and you're ready for the training, you can contact me. I will prefer by email to let me know, because I have to get the group of us together to work together to plan the training, and it'll be first come, first serve. And it's going to be, it's going to be kind of taxing initially, but we have new partnership specialists that will be coming on in October that would have to be trained as well. And this is one of the first training they will be receiving, is assisting with and becoming available to assist with the partnership training. So we're talking about, if you want to get on board in August, and I'm going to say by the 10th of August, we should have all of that information available. And we need to get on your agenda to come and do the training, and we could start that. But that's going to be the thrust of what we'll be doing starting in August. This will continue probably to mid-2019. And as I said, some have already begun the process. So it's just a certain step. However, if we are not available and you feel comfortable and we can send you the training and you want to start the training process with the guide and the training manual, feel free to do that as well if we're not moving fast enough for you. But we will, as soon as we get the information, we will provide you with it. And we are systematically setting up meetings with the county managers, and they're appointing the liaisons. And all of the liaisons that would be appointed will be getting this information. We just received the information about the jobs availability last week. So we're going to try and get that out to those liaisons in this area right now, because we know that there will be an office here in Mecklenburg County. So we're just getting that out. And as it comes to us, we will be sending it out. Did that answer your question?
It did.
I think, and I want to add something else. I think the sooner the better. And the reason why I say this is because you need logistics. You need to work with all the departments around and get data so you can distribute with the subcommittees so they can start their own little. And then I think the last, for the Census 2020, April 1st, 2010, the last outreach that we had was March to the Mailbox program. And I think what we did, it was going into a park, into different activities in the county, promoting the census. So the sooner you start, the better. You need to get those logistics in place.
Thank you. And then my last question is just Just so I can understand how it actually works, you had mentioned in the beginning about 700 billion being distributed according to census data. Do you know, with the federal government, do they typically look at county-specific data when distributing that money, or they usually look at broader, like metropolitan statistical areas to compute how much funding is distributed locally? I'm just curious how that may work, just to get a better sense of how that funding distribution works.
I don't know, but I can tell you that the state of North Carolina received $16 billion from the federal government every year for the last 7 years, going on 8 years with this year. And the city also was allocated funds. They have programs. And the city and the county, I tell the community as a whole, your biggest competitors with these funds that's available through the federal government are your governments. But that's what keeps the government going, because of the grants and the funds that are available. So we need to make sure that they understand the importance. And once again, the number will go up after 2020. It will be more than $1,623 per person, because the numbers have increased. So, and we will get more than $16 billion. So we just need to, the monies, you can look, that list over there that we have on the table of 50 ways that the information is being used, and the George Washington University study, I think it may be in your packet. I didn't have it on my PowerPoint, but it may be in your packet. But the George Washington University study has a breakdown of a lot of the funds that come back to the state. The only thing on that sheet, and it wasn't everything, it was just maybe 20, 25 things listed, was money that was allocated for the highways from the federal government. But the majority of the funding came to, had to do with mostly health and human services that's provided to people. So that's why we want people to see that information, and we include that in the training. And we have, when I talk to the county managers, I give them that information so they can see this is what you're doing, and these are the people that you're helping, and they are the ones that are not filling out these forms. I mean, and I don't want to pigeonhole them like that, but that's kind of how it works. Did you want to say something?
I want to add something else. This is just make sure that money goes to specific programs in your county. In our county, we did an analysis of what money goes to what: education, health, transportation, some other things. But they counted just the people that was counted for that decennial, from the American Community Survey or any other programs after that. So you just have to be sure that you know this, because people think, well, our county has more than X or Y amount of people. Yeah, but this is the count for 2010, and we're based on this total count. So all the count that is distributed to the president December 31st, 2020, that will be the total count for any of those, or that money that goes to those different programs.
To answer your question a little bit more, it depends on the program. So like transportation funding, for instance, or public transit funding, for instance, flows to the MPO, and then CATS has a formula that they share it out to some of the other agencies. Whereas like Title I funding, which was mentioned, flows directly to the county. So it's all dependent on the program and the formula within that program. Yep.
Are there any other questions?
I was just curious what the communication with our Central Carolina Council of Governments looks like moving forward. We've mentioned advertising as a regional approach and some other things, and I just didn't know what the communication might look like going forward from the Census Bureau through our Central Carolina Council of Governments, which includes all of our counties that are present today.
Well, what we tried to do, and we're doing it a different way in different areas. It's based on the response that we get. If we get the response, and I'll just give you this example. When I met with Catawba County manager, he immediately said, we need to get the Council of Government involved right now. And what he did the very next week, he brought in the executive director for the Council of Government, and we met with several people, his communication person, the library, but he brought in a group, and they made the point at that particular time that they wanted to get started. So I met with them 4 times, and they said, we want to do it right away. And that was the first group that we did. So, but we have to move when you respond to us. There are some county managers that I've tried to meet with several times, and I'm trying to make sure that I meet with all of the, excuse me, the county managers before I get the COGS together. And it just, when I met with Mecklenburg County manager, I asked, she called me back right away, you know, and since she was moving, I said, well, I had to meet with one other county, but I asked her if she would host it. But the COGS is really where we would like to work within the COGS. But to be honest with you, and there are, of course, you know, it's 17 COGS in the state of North Carolina, and all of them don't work with the other counties. Like, everybody don't work together really well. But we just have to be available for them. So it's based on how the response that I get, you know, like with Catawba, I was there 4 different times. You know, I had a hard time getting with Buncombe County. You know, I've had several counties on eastern North Carolina that I haven't gotten come together. Like I know Cog has really tried to reach out, but I can't get to all the county managers. You know, but they wanna host it and they wanna work with us. New Hanover, Wilmington called me and said, they called me in January and said, we want to do a complete count committee. We want to do whatever we need to do right now. And once we started the process with the city of Wilmington, after I met with the county manager, he said, we want to do it. So that instead of the COG doing it, the county manager wants to do it. So we just have to respond because we have limited time, but we want to get things moving. So that's how it's working. So the relationship that I think that what I'm hearing, it really is what we are available to do and respond to those that are willing to work with us whenever and however. I would love to be able to work through all the COGS. That would be much easier.
Can I add something to that as well? As a county working with the Central Carolina Council of Governments, they have provided for training with the BAS, LUCA, and eventually there will be the PSAP program that is essential for the decennial 2020. Some of you have working with census tracts, and I think the important thing over here is that they're working with us right now in this area, in this region, trying to make sure that your addresses are correct and they're sending the right addresses, the home addresses to the Census Bureau. The PSAP program is another program that works with the census tracts. They have a threshold between 4,000 and 8,000 people per census tract, and I think it's still the same. And we will revise those by the end of September, I believe, or August, but I think the Central Carolina Council of Governments will have another training for that specific program. Those 3 programs are essential for the decennial 2020 count.
Thank you. I think it would just be very beneficial if the Central Carolina Council of Governments could be involved in some form or fashion, especially when we're talking about our regional efforts for advertising, maybe a training event for some of these subcommittees instead of the Census Bureau having to go out into individual communities. Maybe it might be better to hold one regional training on those subcommittees as to what they might look like, but some smaller groups as well.
And that was a recommendation that was made by David Klein, because he worked with the geographers and the GIS departments. He recommended that early on. But as I mentioned, because of the time frame and the response that we've been getting and our inabilities to connect with all of the county managers, because they need to know and understand what we're trying to do. And I guess we can do a little bit more through the COGS. And thank you for even asking that question, because we will try to be more aggressive in getting in communication, open communication with the COGS. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Once again, I appreciate everyone coming here today, and once again, Mr. DiNario, for you extending the opportunity for us to host it here at the county building. Okay. Thank you very much. And as long as you've signed the sign-in sheet, and as she said, she don't want this food to stay here, so it's close to lunchtime. Some snacks. And feel free to call us at any time. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Get working on it.